special workshop meeting. You ready? You know what's that time for me? Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this special workshop meeting. We will call this meeting to order at 4:34 p.m. Roll call. Establish it.
Here.
Ewert here.
Hollowell here. That's okay. Meeting's called to order, and we'll let it reflect as a quorum present. That's all we gotta do. It's time up, so I can figure the time up.
Let me send again one thing. I'm so sorry. I had it in my head for 30. I apologize for that. So I wanted to quickly just introduce myself. I know we're in a workshop here, but my name is Nathan Tapoya. I have been in economic development for about 18 years. Started in the Rio Rancho, New Mexico market, which is a suburb of the veteran community of Albuquerque in New Mexico. And so it's largely known for having an Intel plant there that came there in the 80s. They have a Hewlett Packard and 250,000 square foot facility there as well. And had a lot of call centers, back office, good school. Kind of about 100,000 people population. Stayed there for about 7 years. I transitioned to the state economic development department. Realized I do not like state economic development and don't like practicing in that arena. It's a very different mode of operating than in a private sector, because the agency there was a private sector, and then when I moved to Texas, I was in West Texas for about 3 years, and then down south a little bit, and then certified economic developer, and all that means is there's a designating entity called the International Economic Development Council out of DC, and there's a lot of trainings you go through. You have to have like 5 years experience before you can even test, and then you go through it. One of the things we're going to talk about today that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the business retention and expansion program. Just kind of laying some groundwork for what I believe this community could be focusing on. I worked in McKinsey. We talked a lot initially to try to figure out what kind of scope, what kind of immediate needs she felt the community would really. I am so sorry. Sorry. All right. Inside. I'm taking it. The whole time? Oh, sorry. Testing. Okay. I'm so sorry. In Mount Pleasant, you guys have a better system than Mount Pleasant. Theirs you have to hold down the entire time. So I appreciate the one click. So I worked with McKinsey, and we were trying to figure out what would be the best actionable plan that we could bring to the city of Winnsboro and to their ADC. And we identified a business retention and expansion plan, largely because of its immediacy to be able to touch your existing businesses. And we're going to go through a little bit about what a business BR&E plan looks like for a community, and then we'll go on from there. And I'll tell you a little bit about, give you some of the feedback that we've been getting from the community. I was able to sit down a little bit with Carolyn, your Main Street director, and and visit with a few companies, and even the experiences as we've tried to make inroads with some of these companies and trying to touch them, just kind of give you some feedback of what those companies are telling me, how they're responding, and hopefully that just provides some momentum and some groundwork for this EDC board and for the city council to kind of start coalescing and working together to create a plan as it goes forward. Before I continue, are there any questions that you may have or that you are hoping to get out of this presentation or me being here today? I want to make sure I address that front. Would it be possible to get a quick rundown of what you're doing in the community right now, either for work and how long you've been serving?
Sure.
Start with me?
Start with
Yes,
Carl.
sir.
I'm Carl Sutherland. I'm a former software guy. I now am in the citrus and oil and gas business, two different businesses.
Citrus and oil.
I'm Marcia Duffy. I grew up here, raised here. My husband started a nonprofit here in Winnsboro. We've been here 25 years. We also have a church that we started. The church has been established since 2009, I think it is.
Cindy Ewert, former VP of HR, full-time here since 2018, and put on the board on October last year.
Last year. And how long have you been on the board?
I don't know,
Two.
I'd say 2 years.
Two. And just real quick, is there a transplant here, or when you say former VP, is it somewhere, you were somewhere else?
Dallas,
Okay.
and then we retired here.
Great, thank you.
Kevin Thompson, I'm a business owner in Dallas, I'm doing electrical contracting. I've been here for about 13 years.
Okay.
Been on the board since last October.
Okay.
Jim Hollowell. I've been here for about 20 years, and my wife and I used to own a coffee shop here, and I worked for Pilgrim's Pride Poultry
Okay.
Company
Okay. And how many years again?
in Winnsboro for about 20 years.
Okay.
And I've been on the board of City Council and EDC for a few years.
Forever? You're one of the forevers. That's good, and it's nice to have a mix, and thank you for serving. I know sometimes it is not easy. I know there's a lot of opinions that probably come your way, and something about being on the EDC, it becomes polarizing in the sense that you have your taxing entities of various sizes, from your large industry, from your manufacturing industry, to your retail sector and your service sector folks, and because you're a type B, all vying for funds, for attention, and for programmatic policies and favorable either incentives or just policies from the city side. And so it's largely the EDC's job to help facilitate, help McKinsey understand what those roles are, and to act as that buffer and to be that intermediary. And so what I'm hoping to do today is to be able to provide third-party validation on what we're seeing just in the interview process. I am still working through some of the pieces through our scope that we're working through, and I'll have some deliverables in the next couple of weeks for you guys to look at a little more thoroughly, and I'll come back and present possibly privately, or we can have a separate meeting. But I really wanted to provide a kind of a stopgap analysis, kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at, and then also I wanted to be able to provide the board just, especially if we're in the two years or less, excluding Mr. Hollowell, how long you guys have been on the board, making sure there's an educative or some degree of education on what and the roles of what economic development corporations do and what they're largely doing and they should be doing in this community, and then kind of what they're doing a little bit around you. And if you're able to ask questions, and I want you to hit me. If you have a question, please raise your hand all the way through. Just hit me up. Don't be afraid to interrupt me, because I think the questions that arise in Media Ray are usually the most poignant ones that you have. So first off, okay, go ahead. I usually like to be in, I'm gonna go this way, if that's okay.
Just a quick word of caution.
Yes, sir.
At 5:30, we have our normal meeting, so
Gotcha.
you got us for a little less than 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay, great. The whole,
Yeah, that-
all right. Perfect. Okay. So, BRNE. Can we go back to the first slide real quick? I did write something on the on the front. Business retention and expansion, colloquially or in industrial speak called BRE for Winnsboro. And go ahead and go after that, please. Why are we here? What is this is kind of a millennial Gen Z me, but why? Like why are we here? What is this for? Business retention and expansion is about building an early warning system, a growth pipeline, and a relationship of trust between Winnsboro's business and leadership. It should be a cornerstone of the city's economic development strategy. Economic development efforts must move at the speed of business, not the public sector. And next, please. So the three-legged stool of economic development. Has anyone seen a slide like this or in any way heard about this? So this is helpful. It's helpful to understand kind of where you might be. In economic development, there's a lot of theory in it and a lot of practice, but when you consider what it takes to grow your industrial base and to raise the quality of life in your community, there's only three ways to really do that. One is new recruitment. This is what gets the headlines. This is your Amazon, right? Texas Instruments coming in, Apple building a data center. These are the ones that people usually get excited about 95% of the time. Unfortunately, it's about 5% or less of the actual economic development programming. So you have your new recruitment. It takes a lot of resources to get that business here, to either relocate them, catch them from, you're competing with other businesses in the region. You're competing with other states. If they're looking at Texas already, they might be also looking at Louisiana, Oklahoma, especially Northeast Texas. You have Arkansas, you're close to Louisiana, they might be looking at Shreveport. So I would consider that to be your actual competitive radius. And so new recruitment is a big deal if you can get them here. There are workforce, just so you may or may not be aware, is one of the driving factors for why communities are locating somewhere and why they would choose this very specific site. The next one you would have, I'll actually go to the right, is you grow from scratch. These are your entrepreneurial programs, your incubators. You guys have a very great, really good Main Street program. You guys have made a lot of investments in your downtown area. It shows. You have some really great, the Bowery. There's all these really interesting things from the outside that you can see and are really attractive about the community. And I think there's reasons why you might have shown up here or moved here, the newer folks. There's this really interesting quality about Winnsboro that I've known just from being nearby, but then also coming here. I think that was amplified just by talking to some of the businesses here and being on the streets, walking the streets a little bit. You're growing from scratch. You may have an opportunity to grow and work from a one-on-one, especially as a small community, because you're not going to have the amount of resources to just somebody coming in, we need 100 jobs, we need 100 people. Can we pull that? Does that pull away from your other employers? How do you grow your community at a rate that's sustainable? And so growing from scratch is actually an interesting strategy because you could bring somebody here who's super interested in your quality of life. You guys have really good, in the aspects of town that you need them, you have good internet. You have this really interesting, peaceable, like laid back lifestyle that somebody could work from their home, run a business out of here, and then still go hiking, go to the lake, do all these sorts of extracurricular activities. So that's an interesting strategy for this community. But then there's existing businesses working to either grow or expand, or even sometimes within your own community relocating a business because they're outgrowing their spot, or they're outgrowing just philosophically some of the element or the places that they're in. So next slide, please. Next slide. It's my paper here. So why BRE matters to Winnsboro? The city is too small not to have a rapid response time and a rapid response team. And so what I mean by that is, and I felt any community that's probably less than 25,000 should have a team that's able to examine, identify a problem within its business community, form a resolution, and then be able to bring that to the appropriate either regulatory agencies or decision-making entities, usually the board of an EDC or to the city council, and move to do that fairly quickly. And that's one of the attractive pieces that a community like Winnsboro could bring to the table when you're competing against larger communities, like a Shreveport or even Mount Pleasant or Sulphur Springs. Like when you have a little bit larger cities, the ability to be nimble and to act super fast, to call a mayor, to call a city manager, say, hey, this group came in to lunch today. Can you meet with us? Can you meet for lunch at such and such a restaurant? And then maybe even have a response by that evening or the next morning. So business retention and expansion protects the base. So large employers anchor jobs and tax base, and so do a lot of small operators. So BRNE supports local entrepreneurs. It strengthens the downtown and niche downtown businesses. It encourages expansion, helps businesses grow here and not elsewhere, and builds city business trust. So it creates stronger public-private partnerships. And all of this slide, if you're boiling it down, what it essentially means is that you're looking at creating a business-friendly, this is what everyone talks about, all these generic terms, business-friendly environment. We're business-friendly as a community. What does that mean? It means you actually respond quickly and efficiently and attentively to stated needs by your business community. And that is only going to happen by actually knowing what those are. So what we're going to talk a little bit today about is how you learn and how you do your own primary research on your own community. So economic development efforts must reduce the following, and I preach this to my board, and I'm really proud of some of the people I've been able to train and mentees and my board be able to say this at city council meetings. If you can memorize these things, and it'll help affect your policy making, your decision making as you guys all consider businesses that are approaching you for grants or for loans. If you can reduce cost, risk, time, to industry and businesses, you are doing your job. And so businesses inherently are risk takers. Entrepreneurs are risk takers. If you're in business on a larger scale, you have 10, 15, 20 plus employees, and you're running a full shop and you're offering benefits, you have a larger operation. You don't have time, and you're not super interested in a lot of the things that might happen at the political level, right? This is stuff that your city manager has to manage. Right? She's managing the elected officials and all the different needs and interests that might be there, and she's running the city. She's got departments to run. One of the things that the EDC can do for its city manager, who happens to also be the executive director for your EDC, is to provide a framework and a mindset where the policies you're making, the grants that you're making, all reduce cost, risk, or time. Cost, obviously for obvious reasons, businesses have finite resources. Risk, if there's a business in your community, and one of the businesses that we talked about or we visited, I will say, has a lot of risk. There's a lot of unknowns that they're trying to fix, and they do not feel like they've been heard or that their problem is being addressed. And they're actually considering another city, not because they want to. They stated to us privately, we want to be here. We just don't know that we can be. We've been asking a question for 6 months. We can't get an answer. And that type of unknown risk, even in your own personal finances, we do that in our own personal lives. We try to reduce the risk and try to get to knowns as quickly as possible so we can make a really good decision for our families, for And then time. In business, time is money, where it may not be so much on the public sector side. On the private sector side, we know that. Making a decision can cost somebody. You can, on one side or another of COVID, and everything shutting down, or on the other side of a tariff being implemented, that could be a matter of weeks. And so time is also incredibly important. Next slide, please. And this is just a fact. You can Google this, but it'll show up in every city manager, every economic development, educational tutorial. 80% of your business and your growth in your community is going to come from your existing businesses, not from new businesses. And I know I had said 5% earlier, but that new business includes your entrepreneurial and startups. Next slide, please. So core elements of a BRE program. Staying on time here for you. Structured business outreach. So regular visits and surveys. And this has to do with hitting the streets, literally, and knocking on doors and letting people know that you care about them. One of the things, through some of my interviews in Winnsboro so far, I've come to the realization, I'm trying to think of how to say this here, especially for being, I'm getting the sense that a lot of the businesses here feel like they would like to have a little more love and attention and tender TLC, I would say, and just to have a little bit more of that personal touch. And oftentimes you can solve about 40% of those problems just by walking in the door and asking how they're doing. And so creating a program where you're tracking how often you're touching these businesses, in your downtown, outside of your downtown, either side of the train tracks, and then your large industry is going to matter. Business health assessment, so you identify workforce and infrastructure needs. And so I will be providing the EDC a document that I hope you aren't reading when you're in front of someone, but you should almost kind of have memorized it. And it's something that you're going to ask anyway. You're going to be asking people, hey, are you happy here? From a regulatory standpoint, from a code enforcement standpoint, from how's staff doing? Like, how is the EDC responding to your needs? Do you feel like we're doing it? Be honest. We're not trying to, we want to know, how can we improve? You're going to ask things like, do you see any layoffs in the future? Do you see any workforce reductions, or are you going to be hiring 5 people, 10 people? What can we do if they say something? There could be seasonality things challenges that they're coming in. They have Christmas coming up or the holidays, and they do certain specific things that just for that. How can we help you ramp up? Are there things that we can do from an advertising perspective? What can we do to help with that? And especially if you know that they're going to be reducing. Working with the Texas Workforce Connection, getting those jobs preloaded and getting those people on site here to make sure that those people are taken care of. These people in your community, like these laborers in your community, are being taken care of, and they have opportunities to go into the next opportunity. Infrastructure. Some people may not have internet. It may be a block or 2 over. There could be, maybe they need 3-phase. They're bringing in a machine, and it's not quite ready yet, and they can't afford the $40,000, $50,000 cost. Maybe there's something you can do to step in. It creates 2 more jobs. It's those types of things that sometimes they're just working with their banks on, and they get caught in their own silos because they're working fast and they're running a business, and they forgot maybe that the EDC could be a resource to help them and bridge some gaps for them. So you have your problem solving and rapid response, and this just is what I was kind of saying earlier. How do you remove those barriers quickly? Knowing what those problems are, and they're varied, especially when you have a type B organization, you have all these different kinds of businesses, they're going to be varied. But having someone sophisticated enough and trustworthy enough for these companies to tell them their issue, feel like they're not going to have any sort of retribution or any sort of punitive action taken against them. They can be honest, creating, I hate to say the word, but like a safe space. But allowing these companies to be honest with the community and the community leaders. Workforce and talent alignment. I was at one of your larger manufacturers, larger employers here, and I called. I have a good buddy who's the workforce developer for NTCC, and I was saying, hey, have you ever been here? And he was like, we've been trying. And he said, we've been trying for years, and would love to. I was like, well, I have one of the top guys' contact. I'm holding his card with his cell phone on it right here, right now. We'll shoot this off to you. The college is a resource for you guys. I think they're already doing a lot of programming inside of your high schools. They want to be involved, and you're in the service territory. There's some really interesting leverage that the community can use and by bringing those folks in and really creating some partnership and some synergies with a training facility. You have access to the training facility that's in Mount Pleasant. If you've never been there, there's a training facility sitting right by Lowe's, right on I-30. That's accessible to your large employers who may need it for plant maintenance, and even your smaller operators here. Maybe they're working on a freezer. A restaurant could be doing that. There you can be training plant maintenance folks, electricians, and those sorts of things. So there's a really interesting. It's called the Industrial Training Center in Mount Pleasant. That's available to your employers. And so, working with those ISDs and those colleges, and finding where those crossovers are. Small business and entrepreneur support, connecting them to resources. There's a small business development center that they will help your companies with business plans. If you're looking, and it helps, this is for the EDC side, if you could hand off a business to a small business development center, these are the operating arms of the SBA, Small Business Administration. And if you've never used them before, their services are free. They offer enterprise level research for your community. They have resources to tap into IBIS World to be able to tell you, is this a good idea? I'm starting a gelato shop. All right, let's look up gelato shops nationwide, and then let's enter it to Texas, and let's see if we can get it as regional as Northeast Texas. And be able to understand what the wages might be, what the revenue streams might be for that type of business. Is it going up? Is it going down? Hopefully they're not creating a VCR selling business or something, right? And you're able, these are available resources to this community that will help even draft business plans, which your banks or this EDC may require, to help you guys make a good decision on whether or not to make a loan or a grant. Small business and entrepreneurial, sorry, I said that already. Last two, recognition and visibility. This has to do with celebrating milestones. The company's been, somebody that opened up a shop here, celebrate them. And that you're working with your chambers and all these, and your main streets to get these sorts of things progressed, but then you have your tracking and reporting. So this is a really critical piece. Being able to track and tell yourselves, but also the community, how many companies, you're working with. So you have, if you can go to the next slide, please. So currently, you're working off of an Excel spreadsheet, which is actually doable. You can do that at the size you're at right now, but for probably less than $20. Well, I do know for less than $20 a month, you could actually start a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. These are online based, and they will help you. You can track your phone calls. They'll usually have a supporting app. You can make a phone call. It'll track and load into the system that you called company A. So when you call them, you can make notes on it, create a reminder for next week, for next month, for next quarter, next year to touch them again. This is the problem. Did it resolve? You can actually track those, any sort of barrier tracking or barrier removal that you guys may be engaging in. And so having even a slightly more sophisticated CRM rather than an Excel spreadsheet where you're checking off, hey, did we contact them? This is the problem. Could be a really good way to speed up that process. So next, please. I know we have two. So how BRE fits the bigger picture. So it's a complement to recruitment. It ensures supportive environments, and helps with economic resilience. And what that means is it reduces vulnerability to shocks. Community identity. It preserves Winnsboro's unique character. And so through your business retention and expansion, you're helping to keep the businesses that you feel are helping you identify as Winnsboro itself. You have a lot of really chic and niche shops coming in that are kind of creating this interesting vibe of Winnsboro as this really cool laid-back place that has some really interesting offerings, but that you can still go home to your ranch if you wanted to, but you can come into town, and the town is actually, there's something going on here, especially at a community of this population size. So next slide, please. Roles and responsibilities. So I have 3 points here. So EDC, so a lead BRE program, conduct site visits, coordinate resources, and provide critical feedback and reporting to the appropriate people. That's the role of an EDC. And so what this slide is kind of engaging in, and what it's talking about when I have EDC, City Council / City Manager, and thirdly, the Board of Directors. When I'm saying EDC, I'm meaning staff. So your lead, your EDC staff is going to lead the BRE program. They're the ones going to be conducting the visits and coordinating the resources, providing that feedback. And then it's City Council's and the City Manager's job to provide the policy support and to remove barriers within that larger framework. And you have your Board of Directors. So, which is you folks. You'll be championing the program and serve as connectors and faces of the business environment. And so, without knowing the business philosophies of each individual board member, on how you feel about economic development, how you feel about retail or large industry, or how you feel about grants, how you feel about loans, how you feel about all those sorts of things. And all of those are important. Getting aligned and making sure those aligned, and I'm imagining they are, is incredibly important. Your business community understands and they feel when something takes too long. And usually it doesn't happen quickly, or decisions don't happen quickly, usually because there's differences of opinion, which is usually happens at an elected official level, because people are elected. It's a popularity vote, elected officials, right? And so there's definitely different opinions. But when it comes to being placed on the board, making sure, even if there's differences of opinion on philosophical issues, making sure programmatically that you have front-facing and out-facing policies in place that people can see and they're easy to read and that they're available and that you can actually speak to them. If they come up to you and ask you, hey, you're at the Dairy Queen or you're at the grocery store and they're asking you about a program, you want to go direct them to your staff, but also being able to talk to that and speak to those issues, and then acting quickly once you hear them is super critical. Next, please. So I won't go through all of these, but examples of how BRE programs have supported Texas communities. In Paris, you had a BRE engagement with a major food processor led to infrastructure support, allowing expansion and the creation of 125 jobs with a $30 million investment. Sulphur Springs, local manufacturer, retained through BRE outreach that connected the firm with Paris Junior College workforce training programs. Bastrop, their BRE program, downtown business identified succession challenges, which is a really big issue in a small community. And I will stop there just to say that there are resources, there are individuals and companies that specifically that specialize in ESOPs, so employee stock-owned companies, and will come in and help. If there's a business here and maybe they're aging out, they're getting close to retirement, maybe something happens on a physical disability level, family changes, whatever it is, instead of losing this plumber, this electrician, this restaurant, allowing them to either sell or facilitating a sale, or allowing them to pass that on to their employees. It creates ownership. Now there's pride. There's people who live here, who want to live here, who want to take care of their homes, who want to take care of their community, this street. You start having more and more buy-in. And those are really great ways and very important triggers and signals that the board and the EDT staff in the city, I would hope, are looking for. Because this really is a big issue in smaller communities. And I'll say this last thing, because one of the reasons it's critical and that I've seen in some of the small communities I've worked in is that it starts creating this death spiral. You lose this company. Oh, we don't have electricians here. we have to call somebody in from this place. Oh, we don't have a plumber now. And there are kids coming up, and we know with AI, these are AI proof. Like if we're not putting kids in the trades, if we're not putting kids and helping them train them, you can have an 18-year-old making close to 100 grand coming out of school. These are really good opportunities. Are we allowing these individuals to walk into a high school, work with your high school, say, can we do a program with these 3 or 4 people that plan to retire in the next 3 years, and find their best students, people who don't want to go to college, and like, hey, let's do a mentorship program, let's do an apprenticeship program, and get these kids in, and then, hey, would you be willing to sell it to these individuals? Those types of things. There are some really great ways to keep that talent, keep those services in this community. So again, just finding out succession planning. And we'll go on from there. Next slide, please. And so these are some of the companies that we looked at and have visited. We're still making some of those inroads here. You'll see a few restaurants. I have some of these cards. If you would go to the next slide, I'll just kind of touch and then hopefully open it up for some questions and then critiques or whatever this board kind of feels it we need to talk about. But here are my takeaways so far. And my goal is to be honest and reconciliatory, and but to be able to point to issues that I think are hindering, and then point out to some of the things that I think are really good about this community. So some of the things that are negative, I'm getting a really strong sense that businesses have a lack of trust for the public sector, and whether that be through past hirings or just inability to move things quickly through the EDC channels or City Hall, no one's on the business side is kind of knows where it kind of dies, but they just know it dies. Once it leaves their mouth, people walk out of their establishment, and then things don't happen. And they don't know where it's happening, but they wish someone was championing them, and they don't feel like that's happening. And then there's been concerns about conflicts of interest. And so creating guidelines for future job descriptions, especially as it relates to public, which is what an EDC does, and like the Main Street kind of area, the Chamberish, those are really interesting positions that serve the business community, right? The private sector, but also are usually funded by the public sector, and so kind of have their feet in both worlds and have to really navigate some of the challenges, the restrictions, but also some of the benefits of both of those worlds. And so it really is a challenging space to be in, but you can do it really well, and especially in a community of this size. So, job description, conflicts of interest policies for positions that touch the private sector. The business community needs strong, consistent, and attentive leadership. And so what I mean by that is the businesses, and you know what, I'm gonna go back to that first slide real quick. There's a few things. One of the companies I visited, one of them I called first, and I said, hi, my name's Nathan. I'm working with the city of Winnsboro, and I was name dropping a little bit. They hung up on me. Thought I was a spam caller immediately, and I called back, and I was like, hey, hi, my name's, I'm not a spam caller. I just want to make sure I said the city of Winnsboro, and they're like, and I don't know if they knew that I was, and hung up on me anyway, but it kind of demonstrates, like they were just like, there's no value here. I don't know why you're calling, but it immediately resulted in them hanging up on me. I talked to them a second time, and I got through a good 3 to 5 minutes saying, hey, I'd like to set up a meeting with you. We'd really love to see what we can do to help you to align what the city's doing with what your needs are, and I'll think about it. We'll see. Like there still wasn't an interest, and so that really kind of speaks to this interesting dynamic that the community seems to not have a lot of faith that someone's going to help them, or that they'll help them in a way that they feel is helpful. And then there's another one. It kind of has to do with like what I was saying about the college, and about there just hasn't been a way in. No one's really been able to touch. It's kind of been a closed off been closed off and no one's been able to kind of penetrate and offer value. And sometimes there's a lot of reasons for that. Maybe value hasn't been as valuable as they would have hoped. Maybe it's personality issues. There's a lot of reasons for those types of things. But I believe there really is a really good, strong way to get into these, some of your closest and your highest performing businesses and really help them. So, and to that end, I say the second line in the second post is a bullet, which is the business community needs strong, consistent, and attentive leadership. So, strong meaning capable, and then consistent meaning having someone in that position who's going to carry something through, who may not just be there, not hiring maybe someone who's here for the summers or just for the winters or something, and they're not here. They want to have somebody who's going to provide some sort of systematic change and systematic programming that will outlast that individual. And then what I mean by attentive is kind of the combination of both of those. To be able to, just because someone's talking to you doesn't necessarily mean that you want them to talk to you, but being attentive, the personalities of people really is important. Their ability to actively listen to industry, to businesses, to understand what that business is saying when they're talking about a P&L. And maybe usually small businesses don't even know what a P&L is, but they just know how much money they have at the end of the month. They know what their bank account says, but to be able to translate that and say, hey, there's cash flow issues here. Hey, these guys are having, they're paying too much for food or for this, that, and the other, for rent. And so, and I will wrap it up in just a few minutes. I know people might be coming in. Is that what I need to do? Okay. So, public sector response is not moving necessarily at the speed of business. So being able to increase that response time is important. Time and time again, it doesn't matter if I was in my community of 100,000 people or in West Texas of 8,000 people. Speed matters. It's their love language, and if you're not moving quickly, they think you're not interested in them. That'll just how they translate it. So being really attentive to that, I think is very important. To the degree that this board can, I understand if it's whatever's in your control. And then the last 2 points is the city and the EDC, needs faster decision-making flows. And what I mean by that is, when I was talking a little bit earlier about being able to speak about programs that you have as a board member and being able to call somebody quickly and saying, hey, this needs to be done, and then within 24 hours or that night, somebody getting a text message or getting an email saying, can we meet tomorrow for breakfast? Very, very quickly, can we get a decision and say, listen, this will be on the next city council agenda in a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Boom, boom, boom. Like something's being done within 14, 15 days. Those types of things make you have a business-friendly community. That's what's business-friendly to a business. And so time equals value add. So remembering that the public sector should reduce cost, risk, and time. And so I will leave it at that, and I apologize again for the limited time that we had. But are there any questions that I could answer, or do you feel like this is a generally good assessment of your community, or what you may have felt from your conversations with businesses? Is this, you feel like I'm off track?
My opinion is probably in the past, we probably had some walls that are being dealt with from last year moving forward. So it's going to take a little time.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I think.
And I think there was that general assessment. There was this sense of loyalty and desire to be here. And I'll offline. I'll give a report, but the community's in danger of losing a really important business purely because of a regulatory issue and a lack of information. I think the board can move actively to just really surround the issue and help them. So, but repeatedly, we don't want to go. We don't want to go, but we may have to. And so, one of them, there was two actually issues, but one of them was something that the community can really step in on.
And Matt, flip back to the chart that showed the percentages between existing businesses and, yeah, that's what. Okay, so on the 80% existing businesses, give me brief synopsis of how should we help the existing businesses?
So it's creating a program where you're touching them, touch points. So establishing a walking, kind of what I've been doing, calling them, walking in. Caroline has been really good. Like when some of the downtown businesses that we've been at, they have a really great response to her. They know her name. But so having that familiarity. So you can't know what their problems are if you're not talking to them. And so either having a good enough relationship where some of the things that you could do is in having the EDC could have a brunch or a lunch where you're showing, hey, this is something that's going on, that the city is implementing this. What do you guys think? We're going to pay for pizza for everybody. You're just serving them, right, and loving on them. But where they're coming to you with their problems or their issues or their concerns, or you're going to them in some fashion, connecting with them and providing them a voice.
Anybody, anything else?
And the reason why, and if you, is just the reason it makes sense for the existing business pieces is the cost to implement a change. They're already here, their business is up, some of it's paid for, their freezers in, their equipment's in, their manufacturing equipment's in, and they're not moving, transporting, all these sorts of things. They have the employees, they have the presence. The cost of relocating a new business is drastically more expensive than helping an existing business. So this is why EDC really should be targeting this component.
I get it. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yes. I understand that part. I was thinking about like, I don't know, so you have an existing business, been here 20 years, 30 years, they need a new roof, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, just thinking about it, because I'm a business owner, that's, the roof's my job, you know, that's because I've been here so long. But is that an EDC business? I mean, I don't know. I mean, where are the boundaries? I have no idea.
We're at the back. So I would pose a few questions. One, so obviously it's not a new building. They've been here for 20, 30 years. Is it in your downtown Main Street? Because these are different entities and different beasts. If you have a downtown facility, these are older structures that require maintenance that are a lot more expensive than you might consider or think. If it's something that was built in the 80s or 90s, yeah, I mean, there's insurance policies, but there's something about a 1940s building that just has different characteristics. And so I would say, where is the building? If it's been here 20, 30 years, if someone came in and they bought it recently, that would have showed up hopefully in the due diligence process. But if it's 20, 30 years they've been here, this is where I think the EDC having discretion, and they can create a few different steps to say, can we do this, should we do this, and you're almost going to go through the same loan programming that or apparatus that a bank would, like character, credit, all these sorts of things. Is this an issue? What happens if you don't? Do we lose businesses or jobs?
So, and I mean, I'm on the record, but this is kind of my personal thought.
Sure.
EDC's business is helping to generate more business for our businesses, correct? Now, that can be done in many different ways, but there's certain things that, I don't know, like expansion, obviously, EDC, that's business. If it's something that creates, additional income to that business, that's EDC business. If it's a maintenance issue, I struggle with it. That's just me. So I'm asking somebody that knows more than I do.
So, say it one more time. You said the very first thing you said, job of EDC.
Let's say we have a business that needs to add, I don't know, 200 square foot onto their showroom to bring in more product, to show more product, to generate more business. I see EDC involvement in the 200 square feet. So we have a business that is not going to change their footprint, not going to do any kind of repairs that expand their business. It's just repairs to an older existing facility that does, is that EDC business?
It depends. Opportunity costs. Are they looking at, will someone down the street help them with that? And will you lose them if you don't? I think you would ask questions like, are they becoming more efficient by being within the same footprint and not necessarily adding more concrete? Are they adding efficiencies which will allow more tax revenues for the community, for the city? And so there may be an expenditure, but are they also going to be bringing another $50,000 in sales tax revenue? And so all these are offset. There could be a small, which is just like a business decision. You know, are we going to make? Is the community going to make its money back out of this? Is it fair to everyone? Are you able to treat everyone kind of in this capacity, even if it's at a lower level? It's like we're willing to commit to that, or we have $50,000, $100,000 set aside just for this, and once it's done, it's done. Sorry, you can apply it again next year, next fiscal year. There's ways to do it where you obviously can't help everyone in the world, but I think there is a genuine and a real concern when it comes to opportunity costs. If another community is willing to offer them that, or they can get it somewhere else, even if it's just moving out of a facility, or going on a lease to owning something, can the EDC buy it and then lease it back to them and then say lease to own, just to keep them here? Those types of things are important.
That falls right into my thinking, which is the same thing I was thinking. All right, anything else? Oh, sorry to cut you up short, but
Yeah.
you gotta get ready for the next one.
And we can if we have our next meeting, I'm happy to stand for more questions as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
That will work. So, at this time, seeing nothing further on this special meeting, I'll call this meeting adjourned at 4:25 or 5:25 p.m.